Chapter 14, Health Psychology, our last and final chapter. Don't be sad. I know you're bummed it's the last lecture, but if you want, you can go back and watch any of the videos on your own time just to get a little bit more in-depth knowledge of psychology. I know that makes you happy. So, let's continue. This is what we're going to cover here. Several different topics, lots of different topics, and it should not be as long a lecture as the last couple. Should not be anywhere near an hour, but we shall see. See? You guys are loving it. Awesome. All right. Slide number 3. Health psychology and behavioral medicine. Health psychology, emphasis on establishing and maintaining health, preventing and treating illnesses. So we're trying to obviously create a healthy person, and both mentally and physically. Focuses on behavioral and cognitive factors. Behavioral factors, which gets into the behavioral medicine part, but behavioral factors deals with like healthy habits, whether it's the habit of exercising regularly, eating nutritiously, getting the proper amount of sleep, those type of things, and getting rid of bad behaviors like smoking and excessive drinking and that type of stuff. So that's the behavioral factors that we're working on there. Behavioral medicine is an interdisciplinary field to promote health and help reduce illnesses, focuses on behavioral and biomedical knowledge. The biopsychosocial model, which we've talked about in the past, applies to health psychology because it integrates biological, psychological, and social factors with regard to your health. We all know there's a strong connection these days between mind and body. Years ago, many years ago, they used to think that there was separateness of the mind and body, but the thinking has come around, and we know that there's a strong connection. There's a big, strong mind-body field going on these days. You can actually get a minor in something called contemplative studies, which connects the mind-body experience. Just talking about classes in stress management and yoga, positive psychology's in there. Lots of different. There's several different options for you within that minor, but it's a good minor for you if you're interested in the whole mind-body connection. Health psychology, behavioral medicine are concerned with how psychological states influence health. So, dealing with someone maybe depressed and how that could affect their physical health. To just give an example, someone who is depressed really doesn't want to do much physically, and with their lethargic state and being sedentary, that can lead to physical illnesses and ailments, anywhere from becoming overweight, obese, having heart disease, all types of things related to the heart issues. So we need to, if you work on helping out one area, the depression, then we can help influence the health and get positive health going on there. Also focuses on health and illness, how they may influence the person's psychological experience. So now we're looking at if you are physically ill, how does that help or affect your mental state? So if you're someone who has a chronic physical illness and is dealing with a physical illness for an extended period of time, how does that affect them psychologically? So that's why health psychology is a very popular and growing, thriving field these days. Well, we're all about making positive life changes with regard to health behaviors. These are practices that have an impact on physical well-being. And we've already talked about some of them there with regard to exercising regularly, eating nutritiously, not smoking, not drinking too much alcohol, that type of stuff. So getting enough sleep, these things, how they can impact your physical well-being. So there are some theoretical models of change that you need to be aware of, and you need to know the difference between the few that we're going to talk about. The first one is the theory of reasoned action, and this theory states that effective change requires specific intentions about the behavior. So what is the behavior that you're going to change? Specifically, what are you going to do? Having a positive attitude about the new behavior. So again, let's go with the exercise. Having a positive attitude about the exercise instead of saying, exercise hurts, it stinks, it's painful. I know I need to do it. The doctor says I need to do it. My spouse says I need to do it, but I really don't like exercise. Well, that's not good. If you want to have effective change, it requires having a positive attitude about this new behavior. And then, what are the perceptions of the social group support? Do you have a social network that is there to help support you? Whether it's a friend or a significant other or whomever you have out there, whether it's some kind of social network to help you make the positive change. So that is the theory of reasoned action. The theory of planned behavior takes on the first three, plus it also requires perceptions of control over the outcome. So this theory, the difference here is saying that now, in order to make the positive change, you need to have the mindset that you have control over the outcome. I can make a difference. My mindset, my attitude is going to help me make a difference. That is not just like, I'm going to try it, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen or not. No, you feel like you are in control over the change that's going to happen. That is the difference between those two. The stages of change model brought about by James Prochaska, Robert Norcross, and D. Clemente actually happened back in the 70s about a smoking cessation program at University of Maryland. And they say that change occurs progressively in stages. The stage of change model describes process by which individuals give up bad habits and adopt healthier habits. So this is a behavior change. You're going from bad habit to a healthier habit. So, like I said, their model started at University of Maryland. One of their programs that they were doing there, a smoking cessation program, giving up the bad habit of smoking and adopting the good habit of obviously not smoking, the healthier habit there. So they said that the change occurs in progressive stages, and they have these stages laid out, and we're going to go through each stage one by one here. You see the 5 stages: pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance. So pre-contemplation, and you're going to need to know this, and you're going to need to know this in detail, because in the test you're going to be given some scenarios, some real-life scenarios, and you're going to have to say which stage the person is in. They're in pre-contemplation, contemplation, etc. There could be an example saying if Jim is in the pre-contemplation stage of behavior change with regard to smoking, what's going on inside his head? And then you have to come up with, answer one of the multiple choice options there. So pre-contemplation, as it says there, it's look at the word. Contemplation means you are contemplating a change, realizing there's a problem. Pre-contemplation is before you realize that. So pre-contemplation is the stage of denial. There's denial that there is a behavior problem. So someone with regard to, the example I typically give is drinking. Someone who is an alcoholic, maybe they're visiting their doctor. Doctor says, you've got a problem. You need to stop drinking. Drinking's become a problem. It's affecting your health. It's affecting your liver potentially. Maybe the guy's wife says, "Hey, you need to stop drinking. You're causing issues. You're coming home. You're just grabbing drinks and you're not getting any work done around here. It's causing a problem. It's causing a problem with our relationship, etc. And Jim says, I don't have a problem. I can handle it. I can handle my job. I can handle our relationship. I'm fine. So that's pre-contemplation. Jim is denying there is a problem. The second stage is contemplation. Contemplation means the realization of a problem, but not quite ready to change. So it's like, well, maybe I do have a problem. Maybe Jim was driving home from work and he had drunk, stopped off at the bar, had a few beers or drinks, whatever it is, and then on his way home, because he wasn't in full control of his vehicle, he got into an accident because he was inebriated. Well, maybe it's the third time Jim's done this year. So maybe he's like, well, you know what? Maybe there is a problem. I've got a problem. I don't know what to do. It's going to be a hassle. I don't know if I really want to change. I know I have to change, but not quite ready to change yet. But maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. Maybe I do have a problem. Then there's the preparation stage. Preparation stage, and it says determination here because you're determined to make a change. You're getting ready to make the change. You're preparing to make the change. So at this point, maybe Jim looks into AA programs. Maybe Jim looks into changing his pattern. Maybe he always drove home from work a certain way and went to this bar after work. Maybe he's got to figure out another way home so he doesn't drive by that bar, which is a trigger to maybe pull in and start drinking. Maybe he needs to change some friends. Maybe he needs to stop hanging out with these buddies that are drinking all the time. So he's preparing to make the change, making a plan of action, what he's going to do, which then takes you to the action stage where you begin to make the behavioral change. And this is from day 1 up to 6 months. Okay, day 1 up to 6 months when you are making the positive health change. So when Jim stops drinking, day 1, he's now in action stage. And as long as he maintains this over 6 months, he's in the action stage. Once he gets past the 6 months, he then gets into the maintenance stage where he's maintaining this new healthy habit and avoiding relapse, which we'll talk about in a second. And this stage lasts typically 6 months to 5 years. And then we get into something called transcendence, which is not a stage. Okay, it's part of the maintenance, where the new behavior becomes part of who you are. So Jim becomes clean and sober. Okay, and this is past 5 years, from 6 months to 5 years. So there's pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, action, maintenance. Same thing happens with any positive health change. It could be quitting smoking, going through from my smoking's not a problem to maybe I need to stop smoking, preparing, figuring out a way to quit smoking. Then day 1 to 6 months of not smoking, and then 6 months to 5 years of maintenance of continuing to not smoke, and then post 5 years where he's into that transcendent stage where being a non-smoker is part of his life. Okay, so you understand what those 5 stages are. If you have any questions, obviously you need to ask and let me know so I can clear it up for you. Now, we mentioned relapse. Relapse is not a stage. It is not a stage. Let me say that again, not a stage. This is a challenge during any of the stages where you may return to your former unhealthy pattern. It happens commonly among people. So maybe Jim, after he's in the action stage of being clean and sober, it's been like 3 months, but all of a sudden it's the holiday season, Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, all that stuff's happening, work parties, things are going on, and he decides that he has a drink. He's weak. He's at a work party and he needs to drink. So he has a drink. And what happens then? One drink may lead to two to another, and then all of a sudden Jim doesn't think he's got a problem anymore. He relapsed into his unhealthy pattern. It can be very discouraging because now it's like, what happened? The evaluation of stage change model is applied successfully to a broad range of behaviors, from alcohol to smoking to exercising to eating nutritiously. Anywhere you need to make a positive behavior change, this model can be applied to. Resources for effective life change. There are various psychological, social, and cultural resources to help in the journey to a healthier lifestyle. We've got motivation, social relationships, religious faith, personality, characteristics, and we're going to talk about all these options, pathways, right now. Motivation refers